Hi, I'm Patrick Reagan. The Configuring Wireless Networking and Wireless Security discusses how to set up a wireless connection, including set up the security of the wireless connection. It will cover Service Set Identifier, or SSID, Wi-Fi Protected Access 2 and 3, guest networks, captive portals, pre-shared keys, enterprise authentication, and Internet of Things segregation. When you acquire a router, switch, or wireless access point, including any combination of devices, they will come with a default password. Hackers will try the default passwords for these devices. These passwords grant full administrative access. Therefore, it is very important that you change the default passwords before you do anything else. Many major breaches occurred because the default password was not changed on these types of devices. If you don't know your default password, you can go to the routerpasswords.com website. Common default username and password is admin, admin or root, and no password. Similar to computers, routers, switches, and wireless access points and firewalls have firmware, which contain the built-in device software. Similar to computers, updates are provided by the manufacturer and can fix bugs, introduce new features, and provide security patches. It is recommended to install the latest firmware and should check for updates and update the firmware on a regular basis. Wi-Fi Protected Setup, or WPS, is a feature designed to simplify the process of connecting devices to a secure wireless network, particularly for home users who may not be familiar with configuring wireless security settings. It was introduced to make it easier for users to set up Wi-Fi networks without needing to manually enter long and complex passwords. Instead, devices would connect to a network with minimum user input, typically by pressing a button on the router or another compatible device or by entering a PIN. While WPS was intended to improve ease of use, it has been criticized for security vulnerabilities. The PIN method, in particular, has been found to be vulnerable to brute force attacks where an attacker repeatedly guesses pins until the correct one is found. This can potentially allow unauthorized access to the network. Due to security concerns, many security experts recommend disabling WPS on routers if it's not being actively used. Additionally, using strong, unique passwords for Wi-Fi networks provides a higher level of security. When you connect to a wireless network or corporate network, you will have to specify the name of the wireless network or service set identifier, also known as SSID, and a known passkey for the network. Open systems will not require an authentication password. This screenshot shows setting up a WPA2 personal, which uses a pre-shared password for a wireless network. It is recommended to rename the SSID from the default wireless SSID, such as Linksys, Default, and Netgear, so that it's not obvious what kind of wireless access point you are using. You should also disable SSID broadcasting so that the SSID names are not broadcasted for all to see. However, keep in mind that SSIDs can easily be determined through wireless network. By hiding the SSID, you're performing a security through obscurity. Using WPA2 or WPA3 encryption is a much better security solution. A basic service set identifier, or BSSID, is a unique identifier assigned to a single wireless access point within a network, essentially its MAC address. BSSID represents the MAC address of the wireless access point. It's not directly visible to users when connecting to a network. When you physically move the laptop from one room to another, the BSS it uses may change because it's moved from an area covered by one access point to an area covered by another access point. But this does not affect the connectivity of the computer. If you know the MAC address, you know what the BSSID is, and since all packets contain the originator's BSSID, you can trace a packet. If you have an access point with 2 radios and 32 wireless LANs configured on each, you would have 64 BSSIDs. Extended Service Set Identifier, or ESSID, is the user-visible name of the wireless network, allowing multiple access points to be grouped under a single network name for seamless roaming. The ESSID is what users see and select when connecting to a Wi-Fi network. Essentially, it is the SSID. It identifies the specific access point, which is used for network management and identifying individual access point. It allows multiple access points to be part of the same logical network. It allows users to roam from cell to cell. In an ESS, roaming is managed by the client device, which decides when to disconnect from a weak signal and which AP to connect to next based on signal strength, load, and so forth. Without a controller, client decisions may not be optimal, in which they may stick to a weak AP too long. The first security attempt was Wired Equivalent Privacy, or WEP. It is not a recommended wireless security protocol. WEP was the initial attempt at wireless security and discovered security weaknesses within a few months. Since WEP, the following have been introduced. Wi-Fi Protected Access, or WPA, is an interim standard prior to the ratification of 802.11i standard. WPA provides strong data encryption via Temporal Key Integrity Protocol, or TKIP. Wi-Fi Protected Access 2, or WPA2, provides enhanced data encryption via the Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES, which meets the Federal Information Standard 140-2 requirement of some government agencies. Some access points may offer WPA2 with DKIP for backward compatibility, but it is not recommended. Wi-Fi Protected Access, or WPA3, provides even more enhancements, including brute force protection and public network privacy. WPA2 and WPA3, if your device supports it, are recommended over others, with WPA3 providing the higher security. WPA uses TKIP, and WPA2/WPA3 uses AES. Temporal Key Integrity Protocol, or DKIP, is a security protocol used in the IEEE 802.11 wireless networking standard. It was used as an interim solution to replace WEP, which includes using a different encryption key for each packet. DKIP was originally a stopgap during the transition from WEP to AES. DKIP is considered outdated and unsecure, but can be used by older hardware. The WPA2-PSK can use both TKIP and AES-based CCMP, but WPA2 Enterprise uses only CCMP. Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES, is a security protocol that was established by the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology in 2001. AES uses longer encryption keys, up to 256 bits, and a stronger security protocol. WPA, WPA2, and WPA3 can be divided into personal or enterprise. WPA, WPA2, and WPA3 personal, or WPA, WPA2, or WPA3 pre-shared key, or PSK, uses a pre-shared key, also known as a passphrase or password, which is used by all connections to authenticate devices trying to connect to the wireless network. This key is shared among all devices that need to access the network. WPA3 SAE stands for Wi-Fi Protected Access 3 Simultaneously Authentication of Equals. It's the modern authentication method used in WPA3 personal networks. Each device goes through a secure handshake that resists offline cracking and provides unique encryption keys, even with a weak password. WPA Enterprise, WPA2 Enterprise, and WPA3 Enterprise use 802.1x to provide authentication framework for wireless LANs. It is usually used in corporate environments. It allows a user to be authenticated by a central authority such as a radius server. It ensures that each network connection can be uniquely traced back to a user by requiring individual authentication credentials for each user. Enterprise mode uses two sets of keys, the session keys and group keys. The session keys are unique to each client associated between an access point and a wireless client. Group keys are shared among all clients connected to the same access point. Both sets of keys are generated dynamically and are rotated to help safeguard the integrity of keys over time. Extensible Authentication Protocol, or EAP, is a framework used in network access control systems to provide flexible authentication mechanisms supporting various methods like token cards, smart cards, and digital certificates. EAP is a protocol that allows for multiple authentication methods to be used for network access control, ensuring only authorized users can access network resources. The encryption keys could be supplied through a certificate or smart card. Extensible Authentication Protocol, Transport Layer Security, or EAP-TLS, is the authentication protocol most commonly deployed on WPA2 and WPA3 enterprise networks to enable the use of X.509 digital certificates for authentication. EAP-TLS is needed if you want to use smart cards to store private keys associated with client-side certificates. EAP Encrypted Key Exchange, or EAP-EKE, is one of the few EAP methods that provide security mutual authentication using short passwords and no need for public key certificates. Mutual authentication, also known as two-way authentication, is a security process where both entities, for example, client and server, and the communication link authenticate each other. This ensures both parties verify each other's identities before establishing a connection. To provide centralized authentication for remote devices that connect to switches, wireless access point, VPN servers or concentrators, and routers, you would implement Remote Authentication Dialed-In User Service, or RADIUS, or Terminal Access Controller Access Control System Plus, or TACACS Plus. A RADIUS or TACACS Plus server resides on a remote system in response to queries from clients such as VPN clients, wireless access points, routers, and switches. The server then authenticates username and password combinations, determines whether users are allowed to connect to the client, and logs the connection. Remote Authentication Dial-In User Service, or RADIUS, is a networking and client-server protocol that provides centralized authentication, authorization, and accounting management for computers that connect and use a network service. RADIUS is primarily used for network access authentication. The RADIUS server protocol is the de facto standard for remote user authentication. It can be used in wireless and remote access connection technology, including 802.1x switches and remote desktop services gateway. RADIUS is defined in the Internet Engineering Task Force, RFCs 28065 and 2866. It uses the UDP as a transmission protocol. Specifically, it uses UDP port number 1812 for authentication and authorization and 1813 for accounting. To simplify the management of RADIUS connections, users and/or devices can be put in groups. RADIUS clients, also referred to as access servers, are servers and devices such as wireless access points and 802.1x switches that forward RADIUS requests to a RADIUS server. An access client is a computer or device that contacts or connects to a RADIUS client, which requires authentication and authorization to connect. When you configure wireless access points to use RADIUS, be sure to select WPA2 or WPA3 Enterprise. You then specify the RADIUS server IP address and your RADIUS password. A RADIUS password, also known as a shared secret or RADIUS secret, is a key used to secure communications between RADIUS clients, such as network access servers like wireless access points or VPN servers, and the RADIUS server. The password ensures that only authorized clients can communicate with the RADIUS server and that data exchange between them is encrypted. As a shared secret is configured on both the RADIUS server and the RADIUS clients during setup. You should use a strong secret password. Terminal Access Controller Access Control System, or TACACS, refers to a family of related handling protocols for remote authentication and related services for network access control through a centralized server. TACACS combines authentication and authorization. The original TACACS protocol, which dates back to 1984, was used for communicating with an authentication server common in older Unix networks. A user already authenticated via TACACS into the network was automatically logged into other resources in the system as well. TACACS in its original form is not very secure and has been updated and replaced by TACACS Plus, which is a proprietary form by Cisco Systems. TACACS Plus is mainly used for managing network devices like routers and switches. It is also considered more reliable than Radius because it's based on TCP and uses TCP port 49. Which of the following is a proprietary Cisco AAA protocol? Answer: TACACS Plus. Question: which of the following can be used with wireless devices that requires both a user and a computer to be in a specific group to connect to Wi-Fi? Answer: Radius. Question: you have a Soho wireless router that is about 12 years old. Which of the following would be the most secure wireless network possible that you could use? Answer: WPA2 with AES. Question: which of the following Wi-Fi protocols is the most secure? Answer: WPA3. Questions: you're installing a guest wireless network at a local coffee shop. The password will be provided on the receipt handed to customers. You want to provide the highest level of security with the least amount of overhead. What would you use? Answer: WPA2-PSK. Question: what would you use to ensure that all users who connect to the wireless network are authenticated? Answer: 802.1x. Question: which is needed for a Wi-Fi network to be integrated with Radius? Answer: WPA2 Enterprise. Question: a technician is expanding a wireless network and adding new access points. The company requires that each access point broadcast the same SSID. Which of the following should the technician implement for this requirement? Answer: extended service set. An employee working in a warehouse facility is experiencing interruptions in mobile applications while walking around the facility. According to a recent site survey, the wireless LAN comprises autonomous APs that are directly connected to the internet, providing adequate signal coverage. Which of the following is the best solution to improve network stability? Answer: implement client roaming using extended service deployment, employing a wireless controller. Question: a network technician is configuring a wireless network that consists of multiple APs for better coverage and allows roaming between the APs. Which of the following types of SSIDs should the technician configure? Answer: Extended Service Set. Question: A technician is consolidating a topology with multiple SSIDs into one unique SSID deployment. Which of the following features will be possible after this new configuration? Answer: Seamless roaming. Question: Which of the answers listed below refers to the network name visible to users when they look for available Wi-Fi networks? Answer: SSID. Question: Which of the wireless technologies listed below are considered security risks and should be avoided due to known vulnerabilities? Choose three answers. Answer: WPA, WPS, and WEP. Question: Which of the solutions listed below will offer the strongest security for a small network that lacks an authentication server? Answer: WPA3-SAE. Question: Which of the following are characteristic features of WPA2, WPA3 Enterprise Mode? Choose two answers. Answer: Suitable for large corporate networks and requires a radius authentication server. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, it is very important that you change the default password on routers, switches, and wireless access points before you do anything else. When you connect to home wireless networks or corporate networks, you'll have to specify the name of the wireless network or service set identifier or SSID. WPA uses TKIP, and WPA2 and WPA3 uses AES. Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES, is a security protocol that was established by the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology in 2001. AES uses longer encryption keys up to 256 bits and a stronger security protocol. WPA, WPA2, and WPA3 Personal, or WPA, WPA2, and WPA3 Pre-Shared Key, or PSK, uses a pre-shared key, also known as a passphrase or password, which is used by all connections to authenticate devices trying to connect to the wireless network. WPA Enterprise, WPA2 Enterprise, and WPA3 Enterprise uses the 802.1x to provide an authentication framework for wireless LANs. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be Basic Wireless Networking, Part 4, Configuring Wireless Networking for Guests in IoT. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Thank you.